All right. Good morning. Hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Chirag Bhandari, and I'm the founder of Ennoble Social Innovations. Today's webinar, Rural Education in COVID Times, is being organized by Ennoble Social Innovations and Anand Institute of Social Work. Ennoble Social Innovation is a social enterprise focused on solving some fundamental problems with the less privileged. Our flagship product, Yellow Green School, is focused on transforming rural education by providing everything that is needed in a school, from infrastructure to the student tools to quality of education. Anand Institute of Social Work, with the motto Only Excellence, has been a pioneer in the social work and HR education training and capacity building. The Institute has been contributing to national development since 1997. On behalf of both these organizations, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you. Today, we have two eminent speakers amongst us who will be sharing their decades of experience in the rural education space with us. Our first speaker is Mr. Dharmesh Gohil. He is head CSR. He is head CSR, CSW, JSW Foundation, Orissa. He is also secretary PDFA, and, and he comes with a very long experience. He has done several programs on livelihood, on sports, on health, on nutrition, on education, on disaster management, on natural resource management, community development, volunteering, and you name it. He is skilled in CSR and business planning management. He's also skilled in agribusiness and nutrition through women entrepreneurship channels and livelihood generation. And he has worked extensively with low income communities. Our second speaker, Mr. Harish Chandra Sukhdeve. He's the author of Making of the Dome of Dignity, Diksha Bhumi. He's also a right to education activist. He is also an activist towards the National Education Policy 2020. He was retired as a deputy general manager from a public sector bank uh, and was also an OSD in the Planning Commission. He's passionate about farmer issues and rural development besides education. He's author of 3 books on Buddhist Renaissance. Now, today is a Wednesday morning. It is 10 a.m. and this is the most productive time of our day. But still, all of you have taken out time and you are here because it just shows that you have a commitment towards rural education and you want the education in these areas to improve. So I would like to acknowledge this commitment of yours. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker uh, for the day, Mr. Dharmesh Gohil, to take the floor and share his views on rural education. Mr. Dharmesh.
Yeah, thank you, Chirag, and a very warm welcome to all. Am I audible? I feel yes.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So we all know actually how we all are impacted through COVID-19. And if I use a one word for this entire thing which has happened to the world is severe disruption to the entire world. The disruption which cannot be explained in a world, because we are going to assess assess the situation in years to come, that how this entire year has impacted the world. So whether it's a rich or a poor, urban or a rural. But here I would like to specifically speak about the rural, how it has impacted the rural and specifically to the education. So as per the figures of the World Bank, as on March 28, 20, there was 1.6 billion children out of the school, and that connects to the 80% of the entire world student population. So we can imagine the volume at which it has impacted. I never think in during even the World War such a disruption has happened in terms of the education. So this is, the we can say the phenomena of not an century but the decades. The other part that, not only the urban people but the rural people are equally impacted, but they have nothing to say because they are not connected to the entire world in a way the urban are connected or the metropolis. If we speak about even the Harvard or MIT or CBSE or ICSE, I think even they were closed. So if we say that they are the topmost education institutes or they are the best provider of the education across the world, even they were impacted and they don't know what is to be done at that point of time. So before they came to the terms that, okay, the online education is one of the medium through which we can continue the education, the entire ball started rolling. So we can understand the impact which is created, for which nobody was prepared. And this is the result of it. Another impact of rural children, if we see, it's also in terms of the preparation this children has done throughout the year. If you see, because this lockdown and everything has happened in March, so even the 10th exams or a 12th exams or in college exams or whatever exams, half of the exams has happened, half were hanging. Somebody prepared very well but the exam never happened. So these has created even more impact to the rural children than the urban, or we can say the primary or pre-primary students, because this is the entire year which was considered as a failure for them without even appearing for the exams. So now how it will impact them for the ages to come, it is as good as they have failed in that year. So that may considered as their performance in a very low manner, where even they have considered 80%, 90%, or even they bought 100%, that may be considered because he has not written in the school, this person was given the marks even without appearing for the exams. Or he might be expecting that I'm going to do well and bring 95%, but he is given 75%. So this is the impact which is created. Now how it has impacted in other way is, the job market, the recruitment, which were very much ready for these children, the rural children, to receive in, say, ITIs or in a very lower grade jobs, or where the job market was really open for them, or they were regularly getting the calls from the colleges or the corporates. So that entire economic disruption has happened to these children, who somehow work towards their economic conditions. They have taken loans from the bank, or they have taken any other steps to complete their education. Today they are out of the job. So this was another big impact which is created on them. Then if we see that this now will impact the entire future of this next generation also, because we are still not sure that how the next year is going to perform. So the children who were in 8th standard or in 7th standard or in 9th standard, where the dropout rates increases, these children without an education for full year may have lost their interest in the education. So again, the dropout rate, according to one of the figures, the 53% children in India are anyway unable to learn the fundamental skills at 8th standard. So we can say that because of this entire 1 year loss, it may have reached to 63%. So the task for the government, for the corporates, or for the private institutions or even the schools has increased fourfold. That somehow these people has worked over the years and they have bought this to a 53%. I mean 53% is again very bad, but even 53% is an epitome, and now it has gone to maybe 63%, at least 10% impact if we consider very negligible to it. Now these are the factors which can be assessed or can be known or can be read somewhere or maybe in the media, or we all know, but how the ground reality has impacted these rural children, because I am very much connected to the rural area and to the downtrodden people and into the field. There are few aspects which is never considered. What about the midday meal they were getting at home, at school? It is completely stopped. It was the phenomena started in 2000, wherein because of this midday meal, a lot of children started coming to the school. So few of them children may not be coming to educate themselves or learn something, but at least they were coming to eat. So that one square full meal is gone out of their entire house. Now the parents who were dependent on this midday meal has also been vanished. So now parents has an additional burden to feed their children in afternoon, which anyway are out of the economic activity. So this is going to impact the entire malnutrition or the nutrition factors, the concentration factor, the motor skill, and the other things which they may lose over a period of 1 year because of no food. So the country, in specifically the rural area, may push down again to a more poverty. We all know how government has worked or what food is being given and what is the condition. The reality and the media is totally two different things. We all know, because as a corporate we had also distributed the meals, but how far we could reach and for how many days was in question. Another important factors which has a lifelong impact, which we usually don't consider also in the part of education. Private school, yes. In urban area, yes, we can see that there is a life skill education, the sex education, and the other things being taught to these children. But what about the child sexual abuse, which is going to take place when these children are home? And we have seen that the 90% of the abuses happens at home. So these children who were going to the school were safe for some period of time. While they were returning, they had parents to attend them, or they go to play or they sleep. But now they are at home 24/7. Are their own parents or are their own people around are abusing them sexually, especially the girl child? What about their trauma, which they are going to do away with? That will remain lifelong. Are we assessing this impact because of COVID? Because when the schools were on, these children could have gone to the teacher, could have gone to the other people, or they have told to their friends that something bad is happening to them. Now, where is this phenomena? Are they accessible to the teachers? Are they accessible to the people whom they can complain that I am physically or mentally abused? Are these children who has now come to an age wherein they can be utilized for the other labor work? So are there parents who are now into the economic trouble are going to send them back? Also, there are people or the government who has tried a lot of things to continue the learning part at home, but are there one room or maybe a hut, or may not be, even they may be staying in open, is conducive to continue the education? So here what I'm talking about is it's not only about the education per se, but it has a lot of economic impact, it has a lot of physical impact, it has a mental trauma related to it. So this thing we have to work. So even if we discount that, there doesn't have a desk, there doesn't have a books, there doesn't have interconnectivity, a laptop, but do they have a supportive parents or in competent teachers at home or in their vicinity who can help them? being a corporate or being into this sector, the education sector or the education sectors, the AIWS also knows very well that how much preference we give to the online education or in distance education. If I have done an MBA from a regular college and a person comes from IGNOU within distance education, whom we are going to hello, hello, hello.
Dharmesh sir, can you hear us?
Yeah. Actually, the light has because of that Wi-Fi went away. Am I audible? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was expecting that something is going to happen like this. So, may I continue? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you're very much audible. Please continue.
Yeah. So sorry. So, whom we have to select? A person from a regular college or a person who has done from a distance education? So this is where the entire role of an education sectors on experts and the policymakers to get these things on paper, that how these rural children who are basically into the jobs of a technical jobs like ITI or the motor repairing or in other things, how they're going to cope up with the education. Here the practical things cannot happen online unless you have a hands-on experience. So this is the impact I was talking about, which has happened due to the COVID-19. Now let's move, because now we know that this is the problem. So how a corporate or how an opportunity or a positive impact can be created by a corporate, or how the JSW looks into it. So as I earlier said that even the Harvard or MIT or ICS or CBSE all has taken a long time to come to the terms. The same way, not even the corporates were prepared for that. They know about the CSR, but their own production. A lot of permissions, a lot of things to start, the needs for the society, and there is a pressure from the government to serve the people around under the COVID, distribution of the food and everything. So that was the one part of it. But if corporates were working into the education sectors and looking at the long-term factors, how we are going to work so that this entire learning process doesn't stop. In urban areas, the parents has taken the role of the teachers. If you see, even in my home, my wife has taken the role of a teacher, because the kids are young, they are not used to these gadgets as of now. Even the teachers in the school, though they are from convent schools or in very hi-fi schools, the teacher has never thought of that they are going to teach online. So they are also taking the help of their own families. So even the teacher's family has disrupted. But in rural area where the parents are not educated, are they going to take the role of the teacher at home? No. So here where the role of corporate comes, because we have a lot of community animators, we have a lot of people in the health sectors, we work with the ASA, we work with the ANMs, we work with a lot of health sectors, we work with few of the teachers who may be from the schools or from the outside, and we work with a lot of people who are there in the community for other development project. It could be water, it could be agriculture, or it could be anything. So here the corporate can use these children to play a role of an parent or an adoptive parent or a person who can support this education. Now again, we will say that these people will go into the community, bring the children and start learning. This is not going to happen. If this is possible, the government could have started the schools itself. So the here criteria will remain that how you remain safe and continue the learning. Now that learning can happen with 5 children or 10 children, because again, we are not going to have a class of say 30, 40, 50 children. Correct? So that's where these animators who are across the community or the area where the corporates are purpose. So the small thing which can be started by a corporate, a very small thing, is distribution of storybooks. May not necessary there are the stories from what standard, 6 standard, 7 standard, 8 standard, but then every standard has an history, every standard has civics, science and other things, and there are these days beautiful stories available which can be put to with these children so that the learning continues. I am not again talking about the books which can be read, or they are going to do master in maths or science and something. I am talking about continuing the learning process, so they are in touch with the education and they continue their learning. So simple story books which can be distributed by the corporates, and these story books with pictures or which beautiful narration can help the children to be in touch with the education though they are away from the schools. Now that can happen at the household, that can happen at a community. Another role the corporates plays to reduce the negativity which is created because of this impact, and how we can bring the faster learning. So now because of COVID, there are positive things has happened. Very good softwares, very good tracking system, very good education system has come. So where the gaps were there, that can be speeded up. If we were running at a speed of say 40, now we have to increase the speed to the 60. So that's where these things work. We can use the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, or the traditional storytellers. The puppet show. The puppet show used to be one of the mediums of education or awareness. Why can't we create such things wherein few children, 10 children, 5 children, 15 children, with a social distancing or something, can be taught some lessons through the puppet. I think there are a lot of good NGOs across India available who are teaching through stories, and the puppet becomes one of the major things to work over it. So we have to reach, we have to teach, and we have to empower the families to fight this pandemic. And it also includes some economic activity wherein the livelihood activities can be start with the families, so that some income starts within the family and they are not worried about their 2 square meals of the children. So that can be done. Now another important factor is, can only the corporates or can only the government or can only the NGOs work towards this entire concept? No, we have to build partnerships. I'll give you a classic. All are aware about the AIDS. It was a huge pandemic, like in Corona. People were so scared to meet each other. There were a lot of stories about the needles and the blood and the touching and the saliva and something. At that point of time, also, the entire world, specifically the drivers and the low income group, were so affected. But there are good stories. There are these health workers, there are the social workers, there are people in the community who has created such a beautiful awareness among the children. They have advocated, they prepare the material for the awareness, and today we see that we are not scared of AIDS. I don't know how many of we are even think of AIDS today in absolute terms. I mean, we all are aware about the AIDS. However, it's not so dangerous it used to be few years back. We all know the campaign of Balbir Pasa and all these things. So we have to use the data. When you have to build a partnership, we need to have a data, and data is oil. Data is the next economy for the world. Even we talk of TikTok, why it was banned, or if we talk about the Geo, what data, or even the Health Setu, Arogya Setu, sorry. So they all have a data available. And when we build upon this data and go to the government or go to the corporates, we have something which is very, very clear that this is the problem and we want this solution. I think there are people who works on the data and can help you out to reach out to 100 children, 200 children, 300 children. And the message should be delivered through trusted sources, through good studies. So we have to move beyond the information delivery to the community connections. and we have to spread the knowledge. So my final word in this would be that we have to work towards the advocacy, and in advocacy we have to try to remove all the barriers for the support of the any learning programs. Learning should continue, and work with the community in partnerships. Engagement of the children, particularly the young children or secondary school children who are going to be the high dropouts, would be the main thing, because this is not an share market where the V-shaped recovery is possible. The recovery will be very slow, and from, I said 63%, then it will come from 63 to 62, 61, 60, 59, 58, 57, 56. It's not going to be like in market that today the share is 100 rupees, it has gone to 50 and next day it can go to 80. So I conclude by saying that it's not only corporates, it's not only the government, it's not the NGO, but everybody, every class, even the urban people has to help the rural people to learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. You've shared like a very deep insight, starting from how this is the phenomenon of the decade in terms of education, and how from the top institutes in education to the rural institutes, everybody is getting affected, and how the impact at rural spaces so much more. The solutions that you've suggested, like storybooks, puppet shows, how we can use technology to plug various gaps and move from 40 to 80. I think they can be real game changers for the rural education. And in the end, what you've suggested is that we need to remove all the barriers to learning, and the learning must continue at any cost. I think that is what is most critical, and that is what this seminar is also focused on, as to how the learning, uh, continuity does not get affected. So thank you so much for your opinion, sir. uh, I would now like to invite our second speaker for the day, uh, Mr. Harish Chandra Sukhdeve. Mr. Harish Chandra Sukhdeve is the author of Making of the Dome of Dignity, Diksha Bhumi. Uh, like I introduced him before, he's a social activist with focused on National Education Policy 2020. Uh, and he retired as a deputy general manager from public sector bank earlier. So I would, without further ado, I would like him to take the stage and share his insights on rural education.
Thank you, Dharmeshji. Good morning to all. I thank thank you, Chirag ji, for introducing me,
Sure.
and thank you, Dharmesh sir, for covering most of the points which I was supposed to deal with, and that will help me to proceed further on the same lines. First of all, I compliment a Nobel Social Innovations team, Chirag ji, and also Anand Institute of Social Works for arranging this very nice session on a very, very critical issue facing the country, rather facing the world. Chirag sir, can I share my?
Sure.
Okay, I can share. Yeah. Give me a couple of seconds to set up this. I don't know. Shares. No, I'm sorry. There is some problem with me. I don't know how to share that, because earlier I used to share and it was. Okay. I think it should happen now.
Yes.
Has it come? Has it come there?
Yes, it's
Can
showing.
you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I thank you for calling me here. I compliment the participants also who are equally concerned about this very critical issue. I would like to dedicate this presentation to the migrant laborers and their kids. You know, the today's migrants are yesteryear's dropouts, and today's dropouts will be next decade's migrant laborers. And we all know what we have faced during this uh, pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, and we don't know, even government doesn't know how many people have died on their way by traveling on foot or bicycles or this or that. There was a news they try to do. And there would be many forgotten heroes if we remember Jyoti Paswan for her courage and grit to carry her ailing father 1,200 miles from Gurgaon to her village in Bihar, then probably we also have forgotten hundreds of them who might have died on the way. And if we see this picture, we will feel or we will realize what is the problem about rural education. This could be a past decade, this could be a present image, or this could be an image. If we want to avoid it, we hope that it should not be the image for next years and in the future to come. If that is not to happen, then probably we will have to seriously think about the ways and means to tackle this problem of rural education. So COVID has actually brought the stark reality of deficiencies in rural education, but those deficiencies were there even before COVID. I, being from a rural area, having studied in a very, primitive kind of schools, we know by first-hand experience that the schools or education system in rural areas is really, even now, very difficult to comprehend. As Dharmesh sir already told, 160 crore students world over in 190 countries in all the continents are affected by COVID pandemic. They cover roughly 99% of poor and middle class countries. Out of those 160 crore, 32 crore belong to India. 32 crore students are almost out of education perhaps, and we don't know what is going to happen to their education in the future. Government has really, you can say, acted, or rather, everybody thought that maybe to engage students in education, it's better to give them some kind of education through online teaching. But online teaching cannot be a panacea for all of them because almost 75% of our population is not having internet connectivity. If it is there, it is not reliable. Even during the course of this session, with rest of the facilities available with us, Dharmesh sir had to, for a fraction of second maybe, had to be off the line, and that was because of electricity. So mere connectivity, availability of data is not enough. We'll have to have other supporting infrastructure to, to carry forward this online education. And then there are limitations about online education, as Dharmesh sir has very well explained, about the distance learning, online education, and the regular classroom teaching facilities. So India's story tells us that there is a lot of work to be done to really carry forward digital kind of education. There will be other limitations. Dharmesh sir has already explained about the sexual abuse of kids, about the hunger, how to handle hunger. If kids are to learn from their respective homes or from the communities in the villages, then how to handle hunger? How are they going to be fed? So this is something which everybody should be concerned about. Whoever is in the field of advocacy for education or new measures to tackle this pandemic related to education. We have seen this. So I will not this thing, but there are, as media, they really do not always present the right picture. You can see here, though you can see the India Today report here. Though the power and network infrastructure have improved leaps and bounds. I'm trying to read that exactly. Though the power and network infrastructure have improved leaps and bounds in the remote areas in the country. Now, will we believe this report? Has it really improved? If that is so, then how come other studies are telling us that almost 75% of our population is not getting any reliable internet connectivity or infrastructure? So we have to be very careful when we collate the data, collate the feedback, and then take the policy decisions. I have to organize my presentation. I tried to get some uh, inputs, and I found this study of All Education Foundation, and I will be quoting from this report for a couple of minutes, because I think this is pretty comprehensive about what is happening, what is being done, and what are the challenges. Now, what does this report say? This, with all, I mean, they have been very, very honest about making presentation about their report, and I must compliment its writer, founder, and CEO of Study Hall Education Foundation, Ms. Urvashi Sahani, I'm giving a reference of that report also. There is a link here if somebody wants to verify. What they did, they started contacting parents and students, and so that they could help them with whatever ideas they could get on the way during the pandemic. And despite best of the efforts, they say they could reach about 70% of their students' body. So what happened to 30% of the students? I don't want to blame them. I want to highlight this situation that even with the best of the efforts, 30% of our students were out of their reach. They could not be contacted for whatever reason. That they might have left it. Maybe they belong to the migrant laborers families, having joined the schools through RTE, right to education, and then they were no more available to them. That is the one very serious possibility. So what they did after having contacted, after making the contacts, what were the immediate requirements? Immediate requirements about their food, about their livelihood, about the precautions to be taken so that they don't contact the disease or they don't spread the disease. So to begin with, they had to be the corona warriors. The teaching was later. Corona warrior, dealing with the pandemic was the first priority even for the educational institution, and that should be so even for the government. And we will see later that even Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel laureate in economics, has made very, very concrete suggestions.
I think there's a network.
Yeah, I think the last part could not be heard. So I think you can ask the sir to conclude if it is possible, so that the further disruption can be avoided.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, now he has joined.
Sir, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, okay. Have I come back? No, not yet.
Yes, you're back. Sir, we have
Uh,
about 15 minutes left. So if you could conclude, and then we can
okay,
open.
I will quickly rush through this instead
Yes.
of reading and this thing. What I will suggest that even for best of the institutions and best of the efforts, they could not reach 30% of the students is the fact, and those could be of from any class. What government can do is, am I having 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. What governments can do, perhaps, I will stop sharing the screen now, Chiragji, because that is causing a lot of distraction for me also. So what we will see is there are such instances where many people have done many things. Like in many, we see the reports that teachers went with the loudspeakers on the cars, or they went to the localities with loudspeakers, invited the students, started teaching, visited villages despite corona pandemic and the threats, and they carried on the teaching activities. All that, those experiences, whatever small, howsoever small they might be, will have to collaborate and ensure that these are taken care of while framing some kind of a policy post-pandemic to deal with the rural education, rather to deal with the entire education sector. So I will go to the concluding part of it, and what I have some conclusions to make, to suggestions to make. The first about the kind of funds required, as World Bank has pointed, there is a serious gap in funding of education at government level. So government will have to raise funds, and I always say that education should be at par with defense, because no educated nation, to my knowledge, have ever lost their freedom. So education is important to protect our sovereignty. Our national education policy, which was framed prior to the pandemic and is now being implemented based on the recommendations or experiences before the pandemic, will have to be realigned, revisited, reimagined, and we will have to work out ways uh, to make it, you know, to align it with the pandemic situation, pandemic challenges. What government can do to raise the funds is, like Mr. Dharmesh sir is already dealing with CSR. I also feel that CSR could be one very good source for funding the education sector. What Stiglitz has suggested, that government should raise taxes on the rich. Maybe if it is not possible, then government can do one thing, that they raise the contribution to CSR maybe from present 2% to 3%, extend it to the larger business entities, and earmark that entire fund to the education sector, preferably in rural areas. That one thing they can do. There can be a mission, one nation, one education, so that all the students get similar education. And we are already proposing to do away with the exams and mark-based assessment, rather to make it star-based and this thing. So what they can do is they also do away with different models of education and make it a common education at least up to the secondary levels. So, and they can, I don't know what purpose the CBSE, HBSE, and those different boards of education they serve. I don't know, but they definitely create a lot of different distinction or strata amongst the students, and unnecessarily creates a the kind of competition which is not really healthy for the students. So for government will have to focus mostly on raising the funds and spending. As proposed, government is proposing to raise to spend about 6% of GDP on the education, which government should do really, because it is only now about 3%. So rest of the funds they will have to come from at village level. The government can collaborate of women, small self-help groups. That is a wonderful model I have my banking career while dealing with farmers' problems. And I think that also can be taken on board for the education sector also. So I think I have covered whatever I wanted to say, and I will close here. So thank you, Chiragji. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing deep insights into what all changes are required. Your ideas, especially how government can raise funds and spend on education, uh, were very interesting. Also, one nation, one education is something that has also been proposed in NEP and is needs to looked at. So after this, I would like to now quickly take you all through some of the work that Ennoble Social Innovation has done over the past 6, 7 months, wherein we were also looking at how we can solve these various problems in education through pandemic. And then we will quickly open the floor for a few questions to come in. Uh, can I screen share, Harsh, Jafar? My screen sharing is disabled, so I will just go on and then maybe it just opens up in a while. Uh, yeah, so, we, uh, okay, it's on now. 1 second. Uh, so Ennoble Social Innovation is essentially focused on transforming education through sustainable innovation. I mean, we all know the state of rural education and the challenges. The same have been highlighted here. Uh, to address these challenges, we have created a yellow-green school model, which is like a complete transformation of rural school, wherein we create inspiring, fun infrastructural comfort. We also create or provide for basic education needs of students. Uh, and we do all this using a lot of recycled, upcycled material so that students are sensitized on sustainability. And we are focused on improving the quality of education, aligning the schools to the new education policy. So how do we do this? Quick examples. This is how we we kind of design schools so that they become like the most exciting place in the village, and kids are excited to be there in the schools. Uh, then we create these playgrounds. So essentially, kids are excited to be there in the school again and play on these playgrounds. They would come early, they would go late, because then school is a place wherein they get to play. We also create various other infrastructural, provide for various other infrastructural requirements like toilets, uh, uh, solar panels, digital equipment, drinking water purifiers, rainwater harvesting systems, for girl students, especially sanitary pad dispensers, incinerators, and obviously, providing for tree plantation and school garden and compost bin so that students are connected back to nature also as well. Besides this, we also provide various products such as bags, shoes, uh, stationery. Now all these products, for example, this bag is made out of recycled material. We use 5 different kind of recycled materials. It also converts into a stand wherein students can sit and write on it. Uh, and we have shoes and stationery also, which are made out of recycled material so that students are sensitized on sustainability. But all this is not really important as of now, because the schools are shut and students are at home. And like the previous speakers have already covered that, most of these students do not have access to education. Various states have different percentages of students who are disconnected from education. So to solve this problem, uh, what we have created is a unique solution, which is like a project, which is Suno Banao, Siko Sikhao, which is Yellow Green Experiential Education. Here, we have created a unique device. Now, this device is an audio device. It contains education content for the entire academic year stored in this device, so that the students can listen to this content even when they are at home alone. And it's very low cost. So, it can be provided to each of the students. And besides the the education content is in story format. Plus, besides the education content, there's some fun content also. So students are excited about this kind of content. It also comes with a solar charger, so students can listen to it at their home. Uh, I mean, so that sorry, the students can actually charge the device, even when there's no electricity. Uh, Also, you know in the entire project, the device is one piece, and the second piece is projects. So we have provided for various projects that students can do at home with their family. They can do those projects alone, and then when the schools open up, these projects can be done in the schools also, which is also in fact aligned with the new education policy recommendations. We have also created a lot of stories which can be, you know uh, disseminated to these students through mobile classes or through radio classes, so that they're connected with the stories. Or we can have these small 15, 14, 15, 10 students gathering together, and these stories can be given to them. uh, uh, so overall, the impact of the program, or the USP of the program, is that it we can create a very personalized learning available for students at home through the audio device. And through the projects, they will be finding it exciting and interesting to be engaged in education. And then we can have some classes happening for in small groups for students, wherein uh, they can connect with teachers once or twice a week while this pandemic will last. And in future, this model can be scaled up with school as the center, and we can have schools getting aligned to NEP and project-based education. Uh, yes, so this is broadly, the work that we have done as our organization to kind of address this pandemic. I see that we've reached around 11 a.m. already, but we'll still take 5 more minutes as we started at 10:04 and look at a few questions that that participants might have for our esteemed guest. Uh, Dharmesh sir, Harish Chandra sir, if I could just request you to come in and I'm
Yeah.
just looking at the
Thank you.
questions. Okay, so we have one question which has come in. Uh, the question is, do you think that COVID pandemic will also have a positive impact on education through introduction of various technologies? Uh, I mean, I think it's a long-term question wherein he's wanting to understand whether it will have a positive impact on education, like in the longer term.
Yeah, I had already covered some part of the positive COVID. So, while we are working on all this entire thing, as Chirag has already said, that we have to wait for a longer period of time to know exactly what is the impact. Because a lot of material, a lot of things being thrown to the people right away. All entrepreneurs has come into the act, and they have come up with various things which in the long run may not be of use also at. So this may also discreate the interest, not only the interest, because at one time we were asking children not to use the phone in school, and now teachers and everybody is teaching them through phone. So are we going away from the mobile, or are we asking children to come to the mobile? While the world is again moving towards the basic phone, so the purpose can be solved, not the media and everything. So, there are many countries who are moving away from this 4G, 5G and all these things as far as the basic connectivity is concerned. So they are moving to the basic phone. So how far? I mean, if you ask me personally, last 5 years, the Jio has given the internet to the entire India, and you find everybody using the Facebook. Before 6 years, I deleted my Facebook account because now it has become a phenomena where anybody and everybody is on the Facebook. So are these going to be used to the people who are into it earlier or the first mover advantage? So I use it when it was in use. I don't find now Facebook has any relevance to me. So I'm not using it. So same way the technologies which is going to be thrown in last 6-7 months, I don't know, everything will work. And ultimately, as I said, the teamwork, the motor skill, like, can you imagine a person studying in IIM online and he will be the same competent person who has not discussed the case studies in the class? So, the case studies, the teamwork, this all will have a relevance. Only this digital education cannot change the world.
All right. All right. Got that, sir. Uh, the another question is that, uh, and I think, Harish sir, you actually covered this in your, in your address, but it's still come up. Uh, what do you think is
Yeah.
the best way of making knowledge reach to all rural houses in these COVID times? This is the question.
Well, see, COVID in the earlier question also, everybody is wondering whether COVID pandemic have taught anything to us. Has thrown so many challenges and so many innovations have come up.
Yes.
Like one of the things I could not mention in my speech is there is a new entrant in the schoolroom now, classroom. There is a new entrant in the classroom now, and that is parents. See, what COVID made is parents have been brought on the board and they are now equally concerned. Earlier, they were concerned about sending their kids to the schools and waiting for them to come back safely. Now, the parents are involving themselves to teach their kids in, in case teachers are not available or internet, if internet is available or books are available. So, there are these situations where pandemic has taught that yes, everybody can be on board in education and everybody is a stakeholder. They were stakeholders, it's not that they were not stakeholders. now with this new realization that is going to happen, that is one thing. Second thing, digital education can provide, or digital internet can give you lots of information that could be useful, that may not be useful, that could be even harmful. So what is important now in this situation is how to teach students to learn, how to use the information, what information they are supposed to use, what information they are supposed to discard, so that they don't get confused about all the knowledge they might be getting irrespective of their age and ability to comprehend. So these are the challenges. These are the new things which we will have to deal up during this pandemic, after this pandemic.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's already 11:04, so because of lack of time, we will not be taking any more questions. But I would like to pass a special vote of thanks to Mr. Ninad Jala. Uh, because he was Mr. Ninad Jala from Anand Institute of Social Work. He was one of the major force behind making this event successful. And along with that, in the Ennoble team, Sarika, Jafar, and Harsh contributed a lot to making this event successful. So special thanks to all four of you. And we wish to continue forward this series of webinars. And I think every fortnight we will have a webinar coming up. So I request all participants to look up for the next webinar, and please join in again. I hope this session was valuable for all of us. And I hope each one of you have derived some value out of participating in this webinar. And we intend to make this webinar finer, crisper, so that we can derive learnings out of being a part of it. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to our esteemed speaker again, Dharmesh sir and Harish Chandra sir. Thank you for taking out time and sharing your insights. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.